Welcome to Brand U 2020, hosted by Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, Department of Communication Studies. This session is sponsored by the generous donations of our alumni and sponsors, Communication at Work, LLC, and SIU College of Liberal Arts. I am Craig Engstrom, the undergraduate director for the Department of Communication Studies here at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. For those attending for class credit, please note that we will put a links at some point in the chat for you to get class credit. On behalf of the faculty, staff, students, alumni, friends, and today's speaker, I would like to welcome you to this event and this session, Building Resilience in Times of Change with Shermaine Perry-Knights. SIUC Monica Fudala will introduce today's speaker.
Hello, I am Monica Fudala, a senior in Communication Studies here at SIU. I would like to introduce Shermaine Perry-Knights. Shermaine is an award-winning facilitator, project manager, and author. She facilitates coaching sessions, team building sessions, and career readiness workshops. As a certified associate professional in talent development, Shermaine is passionate about helping others develop emotional intelligence and leadership skills. She is a master instructional designer, speaker, and ATD 2021 to Watch Award winner. Shermaine specializes in project management and designing curriculum for leadership development programs and recruiting initiatives. With 10 years of experience in public policy, research, and education, she is passionate about delivering interactive workshops and learning alongside participants. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Shermaine to SIU Carbondale.
Thank you, Monica. Go ahead and share. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
No problem at all while you're getting that loaded. I just want to let folks that are here, at any time that you want, go ahead and write a question in the chat. We will go back to them. So if something crosses your mind as she's speaking and you want to have that covered in Q&A, go ahead and make sure that it's already there. Also note that as she is, if you want to say something, orally, ask her a question, with your own voice, just raise your hand and I will call on you at the appropriate time. Back to you, Shermaine.
Thank you, Craig. So today we'll be talking about building resilience in times of change. Our roles have changed dramatically in 2020 and with the global pandemic. So as you can see here, I love this image. We were once in one area. Now there's a great bridge where we're lifting each other up and trying things, building new heights, and the vision has changed altogether. There's a little about me, but Monica gave you a great synopsis. In short, I'm proud to be a lifelong learner. I'm proud to work within training and development, and I am most proud to learn from those within the room that I'm in. So as you have questions, just know that we're learning and we're growing together. So pre-COVID, my role was black and white, as you can see on the left side of the screen, black and white. You knew exactly what you were doing day to day. Some things changed, but in short, it was about designing positive, meaningful, relevant content that improves the strategic initiatives or the bottom line of an organization. The role was very much, here are the duties, and you rarely went away from that. Post-COVID is this gray area. And for me, it's been about building resilience. I'll give you an example of some of the ways in which my role has changed. Within learning and development, now our roles are exclusively about upskilling and reskilling the workforce. Things have changed dramatically, and not only are we learning new skills, we are helping to advance others. It's the nature of training and development has changed, the nature of service delivery has changed, the nature of business practices has changed, and our world is forever changed because of COVID. And that's why I say it's an incredible gray area filled with opportunity. The second level of my role and many of our roles within talent development is about building our own skills and confidence and commitment. I would say this is largely around technology, the access, the use, our ability. I mean, I have learned so many new tech skills in the last 9 months, and I consider myself a pretty techie person. But the nature of COVID has changed how we interact with each other. We are not just interacting face-to-face and having in-classroom facilitation or design built for in-person instruction, or even just e-learning. The nature of e-learning has changed. And so we have to build our skills and our confidence and commitment to the field itself. Project management. My role is now largely project management as well. And I'm going to show you a great example of that in just a moment. It's not just about being an instructional designer. Now you have to paint the frame for the photo and fill in the picture and sell the picture and go to auction and watch the picture be sold. So the project management is completely different in the post-COVID world. High impact service delivery. Delivering the services, making sure that we're upskilling our clients and workforce is important, but the level of service delivery has changed and the quality. The metrics that we are keeping are far advanced now. And this is something that I won't say we weren't doing this before. We were, but the level of documentation required is very different because you now have to justify your work and your level of productivity and what it looks like day to day. The last two measures on here say process improvement and strict cost control measures. I'm going to show you this as well. Not only as an instructional designer are we designing the course, but we need to find ways to improve processes now, because in the post-COVID world, it's been good in the way that talent development is viewed as a strategic partner. And so we are viewed as the person to improve processes, to streamline initiatives, to not just upskill and reskill, but to help them improve the bottom line. And our role has become more in demand than you've ever seen. And of course, the cost control measures related to the COVID response require that learning and development is even more responsible in our ability to deliver programs effectively and fiscally responsibly, right? So in the post-COVID world, what I'll say is the role of an instructional designer is all about resilience, innovation, and creativity. The role itself was always evolving and expanding and in great demand. But in this environment, we were once seen as those who were planning learning events. Now we are seen as a strategic partner to push creativity and innovation and the bottom line for an organization. So the role itself and the demand for the role has changed. And this is a space where if you had a whiteboard, everything you could throw in terms of our talent development needs and the business needs, you become both. The role of an instructional designer now is you're building it as you go, because nothing is set in stone. And it's given some great opportunity. Yes, there are challenges, but I choose to view the next phase of instructional design and the next level in our growth and those who will come into it as a great opportunity, because we are now seen not just as talent development over there, you're seen as a strategic partner at the table. Here's an example of what I was telling you about the project management, process improvement, and the cost control measures. My role has changed in such a way that resilience has allowed me to lead large projects, not just a learning project, but organizational-wide initiatives. Here's a SWOT analysis. And while you may not be able to see the details of it, understand now that project management for learning professionals has changed in such a way where we are clearly itemizing what the strengths are of a program, where the weaknesses are, what the opportunities are, and what the threats are. This particular SWOT analysis was around retooling unemployed residents. Because of the COVID response and the unemployment numbers, we have seen a growth in unemployment. And we decided amongst ourselves, we need to reskill these unemployed residents for key industries that are now, that has a demand. And then there are industries where the jobs have gone down. So of course now instructional design allows you to do research. I'm working with economic development to create plans. I'm working with other areas for cost control measures and other departments and other organizations and nonprofit groups in order to put together a learning project. So the role of an instructional designer has just changed in such a way now that you become a liaison for other initiatives and other areas within an organization, and in many regards within other industries, because now my role is not just for my organization, it's for the public and for other other groups, nonprofit and private sector and government. And we're all finding ways to collaborate, to reskill and retool people around us. So it's not just my clients. I'm looking at other clients to contribute to the community itself. We ultimately decided not to move forward on this project. And the reason why is we looked at the threats. There were so many threats around an increased cost control that it wasn't appropriate to duplicate the efforts of another organization. It was more appropriate, and me as a project manager, I thought it was more appropriate to pass on the research and the recommendations that we have to the group that was already working in this area and to support them as best as possible. And sometimes in instructional design, that's what we're doing. You're not just designing the learning event. You're saying, you know what? This is a duplication of process and effort. Let me work with someone else to show them how we can push their impact even further, how I can support their existing efforts. And that's ultimately what I decided to do in this regard. My question to you is, are you prepared to make an impact in the boardroom? That's where instructional design is. That is the future of instructional design. We are no longer in our department working separately and giving that information to facilitators and other stakeholders to push forward. We are in the boardroom. So a wise man once told me, and I'll share this with you, they said you have two choices. You are either seated at the table when decisions are made, or you're on the menu. It's one of the two. I err on the side that instructional design is seated at the table to impact decisions in the boardroom. And so that's where I leave you with. How are you prepared to do that? Because our role is ever evolving, and you must use that resilience. You must use your level of flexibility and creativity and innovation to impact the next phase of instructional design. So let me ask you now, what questions do you have for me?
I think you actually have a question immediately from Tao Jing.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all. This is a great, presentation. And also, I think I really loved your SWOT analysis. This is the first time I heard about it. It's really amazing. But as an instructor, I was wondering if you would like to share some of these techniques or some skills to help with the students, how to manage their times during this pandemic challenge.
Yes, how to manage the time. I use list. I know some people don't like to use the old-fashioned to-do list, but I love that. And I have mine in different areas for one says new skill. So anytime I encounter a challenge, I put that on my to-do list. What the challenge is, what skills I need to overcome that challenge, and how I'm going to do it. Then you start reaching out to individuals. I am a big fan of, to learn a new skill, reach out to someone on LinkedIn who has that and say, how are you doing that? Are you willing to share that with me for about 20 minutes and to find a great book resource? I have to default back and say, Craig, within your department, you are a wonderful resource. So why not reach out to your undergraduate director and say, do you have something to share with me in this area? I'm having a challenge. So find a mentor if possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
This is really grateful, helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, Tao, for that question. And Shermaine, I just want to, maybe this will help folks generate some additional questions, but could you talk a little bit about some of your secondary things that you're doing? I know you talked about your primary passion and what your role is as an instructional designer and sort of wanting to do that as a consultant. But I also know that you are a motivational speaker, you're an author of various books. So maybe just really quickly share a couple of those thoughts, and that also might allow, particularly for students who might not see themselves transitioning into a instructional designer role, but maybe thinking that some of the other things that you do could be relevant to them as well.
Absolutely. So I allowed this time, under lockdown, and I said the time in which I was driving back and forth from the office, how can I maximize this time, right? That way I'm not just watching TV. TV is good, I like it. But I said, what else can I do? And I said, how can I use some of my existing skills in another area? And how can I use that to create a new stream of income? And so what I started to do was, I said, let me write down, okay, I know how to create great content. Let me find a vacuum there, right? What can I fill there? And I said, okay, a lot of people are looking for jobs. So let me start to create content, because I know as an instructional designer how to create learning content. I said, let me find this for career readiness workshops. And so I started to create content about how to create a resume, how to find a job, how to interview, and put those on my website. And then I said, okay, well, you can't just have a how-to, you have to have the end of the story. So it's end-to-end learning. Created a guided journal. And I said, okay, a guided journal on how to change careers, because many people are pivoting. Like you said, somebody may not want to jump straight into instructional design. Perhaps they want to use the ATD capability model and see what else is out there, because there are 10 areas of learning and development. But how can you use your existing skills and your knowledge to build an area? If you are passionate about art, perhaps you create a course on art and you put that online, let's say Kajabi or any other LMS, and you use that to create a new stream of income. So what I try to do is just allow this time and say, you know what, I'm resilient, I'm tough. Let me figure out what else I can do and become flexible in that creativity to create a new stream of income. So I would say the same for you. If you are someone who loves working with children, perhaps you create a course online, and again, you allow it to grow and you just market it around working from home and teaching your students at home. So there are ways that even if you don't want to traditionally work in ID for an organization, you can use that skill even for speaking events. You can find opportunities on LinkedIn to go live or to reach out to small organizations, even school districts, and say, hey, I would love to talk for 10 minutes around this area, and just create a new stream for yourself and new clients.
Yeah, and you're more valuable than you think. I just want to say that to all the participants that are here watching. And, don't always be giving away your knowledge, your expertise, your skills. If people are asking you for favors, for example, it probably means that you do something well, and you can probably find an income stream for that. I do have a question here from Sam Ebersol. He's raised his hand, so I'm going to allow you, Sam, to ask your question.
Thanks so much, Craig. First off, thank you so much for putting a lot of passion into this Zoom call. I can tell just how much effort you're putting in right now, and I really appreciate it personally. One of the first things you said was you said you love to learn from others in the room. I just kind of have an overall question. How have you found yourself to be placed into better rooms, kind of figurative rooms throughout your career? Like, how have you been able to be put in place to be around better minds and better opportunities?
For me, I always take an unconventional approach. And I'm not saying everybody should do this, but I was always the person that just kind of say, wait a minute, there's people in this room. This isn't my normal circle. Let me just kind of sit in here. I did that quite a bit in college. I would try to, of course, reach out to the professor first and say, is it okay if I kind of audit your class for one day? I'm interested and I may take it next semester, but I want to get a feel for it. Sit down, talk in the room, right? Listen, observe, and say, you know what, let me try that, right? I did that for a course about economics and how the environment plays a role in politics. And I said, well, this is different. I'm interested in politics, not necessarily with this, right? And we won't get into that, but just an idea of something that you're interested in, but it has a sideline to it, and say, you know what, let me start having this conversation with this individual. Another way, Sam, is, and I am big on reaching out to people, and I'll say, okay, well, do you have 15 minutes to talk to me a little bit more about this? Because I'm interested and I haven't been formally invited in the room, but I want to start the conversation. Where can I go to learn more about this? So I would say in the college environment, reach out to a professor if it's that environment you want to be invited in, and ask them, is it okay if you sit in that for a day or two? Now, in the corporate environment, what I've done is I say, hey, I'm interested in this. Not, hey, look at me. It's like, I'm interested in this as well. If an opportunity comes up to work in this area, would you please invite me on the contract? and then you find yourself in a room of individuals that's a little bit different. I find it to be stifling to stay in the same room all the time with the same minds. Great minds, but I want to be exposed to other people so I can learn from them. And even in a traditional classroom setting, I'm learning from all of you as you're learning from me. Keeping that lust for learning, that will do it as well. Also, get involved with your local ATD chapters and national. That gives you access to so many individuals who are experts in their own right across every area of talent and development, and they will gladly provide you access to the room. I've done that. I say, hey guys, I want to be involved. And then I would just start showing up to meetings virtually and in person, depending on the environment. And they're like, this person keeps coming to these meetings. Who is this? Of course, you're not disturbing the room. You're just saying you'd love to be involved, and they will give you a seat at the table. Sometimes you have to ask for the seat. Other times you just need to appear and be present, not disruptive, but you're present, and you will have an opportunity to be seated at the table.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sam, for that question. And Shermaine, thank you for that response. You did mention the getting involved in the Association for Talent Development. Are you certified or involved in any other organizations, let's say Society for Human Resource Management, PMI, Project Management International?
I'm involved in my college organizations. So Spelman College Alumni Association. I'm also involved in the National MBA Association, National Black MBA Association, yes. And I volunteer locally. Again, you want to be careful with how much time you're donating to different organizations. You want to be impactful, but you don't want to spread yourself so thin. So I'm involved with the Association for Talent Development locally and nationally, and the National Black MBA Association, and my colleges, and also Strayer College Association as well, Strayer University Association as well. But let's say your impact is you involve yourself once or twice a year to help with a mentorship program, or to speak once, or to help with a single project. You want to be careful, because when you're good at what you do, and I'm sure all of you are, someone will continually ask you, and you don't want to keep pouring and become empty. So you want to have defined times, if it's once a month or once a quarter, to involve yourself in a few organizations. I would say no more than 3, because at that point, you may be doing yourself a disservice in your personal life.
Great, thank you. I have a question here from Reese Davis. He asks, living in a tech-driven world, do you think some of the new programs and software that you have learned will still revolutionize the way you do things going forward? I guess the question is also kind of hinting at, you learn these new technologies and they change very quickly. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to add another thing onto that, and that is, what new tech do you see coming down the pike that folks might be concerned or thinking about?
There are so many things coming down the pipe, and that question is absolutely relevant because technology is always evolving. I would say artificial intelligence. It's here, it will not go anywhere. And if we can find opportunities to use it to maximize our business and our roles, that will help us. I can just tell you myself personally, I'm working with a program under a group called Querlo, and I want to build a chat bot for my business. In talking with their CEO, Francisco Rulli, he talked to me about the advantages of AI. So don't think of it as, oh, it's taking my job, it's taking my role. There's an opportunity in every organization to maximize and help that business, that bottom line, to build the continuity plan with it. And I would say for us, perhaps you create a chat bot to help have conversations on your behalf. He showed me the importance of, he uses this AI technology to have conversations with others, and it saves him a defined number of conversations, which equal time that he would have lost with family at home. So you can find ways to maximize it, right? So I would say if there is one that I'm thinking of that will be very impactful, is if you can find a way to work with maybe one AI program and understand how to build a chat bot. Our role has evolved in such a way now that we are no longer learning professionals. We are learning professionals. We are technology professionals. We are business management. We are everything that's needed and wearing all hats simultaneously. So find one bit of AI that you can use and understand and hold on to that, because that is coming and it's not going to stop. It's moving quickly.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would just like to add to that, if you don't mind, with artificial intelligence, I also think like automated workflow systems like Microsoft's Flow, as an example, just allows you to automate a lot of tasks. So I think that'll get rid of a lot of redundancies in organization, people doing tasks, right? This bot can sort of do it for you if it's set up well. So I actually think sort of an untapped market there are people who can help organizations or professionals set up those workflows. So thank you for that response. I have a question here from Will, and do you think that the job market's going to return to what it was pre-COVID?
My personal opinion, no. And this is also why the resiliency is so important. You want to use your skills to create something that hasn't been done before. You have a unique skill, and you're all valuable with what you currently know and you're committed to build, because it's my personal belief the next phase of this is entrepreneurship. We can no longer count on that you're going to work in an organization, you're going to stay there 40, 50 years, or even 30 years, collect a full pension and just retire. Things have changed in the world, right? And the demand has changed. And that's why I said, find something that you can use, some of your existing skills, to build a course and allow that to stay online, to write a book. Those things live on far beyond you, to create a new stream of income, so that if you're working for an organization and that position is closed because of the COVID response, and sometimes it's unavoidable, they have to shift money from one pot to the next, you have something else to fall back on.
Great, thank you for that. I have a question here from Maribel Phelps. She says she's not really a tech savvy person. So do you have any books that you would recommend reading that would, or videos that you would recommend that might help people sort of, get started in their career?
Yeah, there's some low-hanging fruit I call for tech world. Quizlet.com, Quizlet.com is a great tool. It allows you, just very simply to create content as flashcards. You can use it in 7 different ways. A match game, which is fun but competitive, to get you acclimated to the idea of using technology. And it takes the old school flashcards and it pairs them with this virtual idea and it puts them together. So it lets you see how the traditional pen and paper can transform to the tech world. And it's free to use and play with. Students and adults are using this. So Quizlet.com is a good piece of low-hanging fruit. Another one I would say, and I'm big on utilizing something for free first, Poll Everywhere, Poll Everywhere. Again, another free tool where you can start to understand the idea of virtually having everyone maybe text on their phone to ask a question, or text to answer a question, or use the whiteboard and all implement their ideas. And these are some free software tools that you can use, and you can ask YouTube how to create a poll in this group, so you can become familiar with it. I'm also a huge fan of Carl Kapp and Sharon Bowler. They have a book called, I think it's Learning to Play or Playing to Learn. Forgive me if I'm saying the title incorrectly, but that is another great book that shows you how to create learning games. That's another idea of incorporating technology. The games that we once played, it is technology, even if it was pen and paper at first. And now we're moving toward the digital world.
Great, thank you. I have another question from Ashley Wood here. She's asking, how do you handle all the various roles and organizations you're involved in? Sort of what's your strategy to keep it all straight?
It is difficult. That's why I said you want to make sure you're not taking on too much. You have to ask yourself, do I have the bandwidth? Is this too much? Decide for yourself how much time you want to spend with friends and family, right? Because to me, family is everything. And exactly how much time you want to give another organization. Working with the Association for Talent Development, my involvement requires me to do something once a week, to spend about 2 hours a week, right? Which could be a lot, and it may not be. My involvement with the other organizations is once a quarter. So it doesn't take too much time away from my personal life and my own professional development. So I would say, how do you handle this? You have to ask yourself, how much time do you want to give? Because you are donating your time to someone else. Do you want to donate it quarterly? Do you want to do this every day? And when you take on a role what I typically ask is, before I jump into this, what is the time commitment? You have to be transparent. What is the time commitment? I only have 1 hour a month, or I only have 2 hours a month to commit to this. Do you still feel like it's a good opportunity for me? And allow them to tell you, because you don't want to take on so much and then you become empty because you're constantly pouring out.
Great. We have a session coming up actually on design. That's going to be the next session. And I'll just take a moment break here to say to those that are here for, you're in lieu of class and you need to fill out the attendance form. It is in the chat. I guess there were some issues last time, so I want to get that out early. For those that were in the previous session, I'll also send out that again. But with that said, speaking of design, I know that you've worked in an organization, the government, and part of your work involved, communicating to people at various levels, different educations, different life experiences, all kinds of different backgrounds. What were some of the communication skills that you used to make sure that whatever you designed as an instructional designer could, sort of universally, make sense to all of those people?
Well, the first thing, and I actually talked about this earlier today before we came on, is one of my communication tools is viewing everything as feedback, and viewing feedback as a gift. Because as you're designing, some people will like it, some people will not. Some people say this makes sense, some people say this is not relevant. And you have to be able to tell yourself, this is feedback, this is a gift. I can use this to grow. And so always having that, creating the space where those around you feel comfortable so they can give you feedback and know that they can receive it from you. So that's a great tool that I've been using for communication. For my team, I like to have quick phone calls. Say, hey guys, how's everything going? Are you okay? How's your family? I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. And this, I'm getting ready to send you an email about something I'm working on. I'll be a little more detailed in the email, but I wanted to give you a understanding of where we are and what the deadline is. So being able to use the phone and the email, not just email. Another great tool is not using video conferencing for everything. I think many people are zoomed out, right? Or over zoomed or whatever we're calling it, and saying, okay, let's have a quick call or let's have a quick text. So just being open to different levels of communication and using technology as well. You can use Kahoot. Kahoot.it is another great tool. You can create a quick poll and ask people to answer questions. And you can use that as a way to incorporate technology and to change the level of communication on your team.
So I have another question here from Justin Inslee, and Justin is asking, we're in the middle of this, pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainties. How are you personally dealing with the uncertainties? How are you staying resilient?
How am I staying resilient? I have to be honest with you. I like to read a lot. So I will get a good book and I will read. I also like to color. So I spend a little bit of time. Self-care is so important to me. We are checking on everyone else all the time. I know you are checking with your family and friends, but understand that the first rule of caring for someone is to care for yourself, right? You put on your mask on the plane before you help someone else. And I believe in that. I try to find 15 minutes every day for myself in the morning. And if I can at night, I do that as well. But for me, I'll go for a walk in the morning, just by myself, clear my mind, play some great music really loud in the house. And then if I have the opportunity later on to color, but you have to find things that you love to do that give you the freedom and the space to feel like everything is okay and everything is normal. But I see a lot of great questions in the chat, and I'm like, I can't get them all, but I really want to. I see one that says, in the middle of the pandemic, things change often, which brings a lot of uncertainty. How do you stay focused and stay on track? I love to use the old-fashioned pen and paper. I will write down things that are most important to me and other things I just need to get to. And then every day I make a little note that says, give yourself some grace, because you're not going to accomplish everything you want every day. You're not going to finish the to-do list. And so the note that says, give yourself some grace is in several corners of the house. So I can remember, it's okay. You didn't finish the list today, but at least you crossed off one thing. And so just remembering to tell yourself that you have time. You can do it another day.
There was a question here. What has been the biggest change in your industry and profession since COVID? And I want to maybe have you answer this with two parts. The first being, how has it changed the state government that you're working in? And then second, how has it specifically changed your role within that as an instructional designer?
For the county government, because we service about 1 million citizens and visitors, for us, it has really highlighted some of those redundancies, like you were talking about, some of those errors that can be reduced. And so it forced many individuals within management to look and say, how productive is my team? How was the communication on my team? What are we doing? Are we meeting program goals? Are we exceeding KPIs, right? It forced them to take a hard look and say, this is what we were doing before, but the world has changed and I can't physically see them. How do I know what they're producing? And so it forced us to not rewrite the key performance indicators, but it forced us to look at each program from a project management perspective and say, what are we doing? How are we going to ensure that the service is being delivered to clients and citizens? And how do we evolve? How do we make this more virtual? Because all the things people are doing in person and rarely emailing and calling about, now everything for the most part is virtual. And now in the middle of all of what's happening right now, how do we still provide health services and safety services with a virtual element as well? And so it forced everyone to say, okay, I'm a project manager now. How can I truly be involved in the work? One, and two, how do I assess the level of productivity? So they had to look at the evaluation piece. Now, for me, how it changed my role, I have to say that learning and development in my organization was more of, what's the word, more of just kind of reactionary. But I like to be proactive. So I was like, okay, well, this is coming. Let's do this. It forced us to have a strategic seat at the table to say, no, this is what we see is happening. This is how we can involve ourselves. So now we are more of a liaison and a designer to every department. Where it was more of a consultant approach. If we need you, we'll come to you. Now it's, I got to come to you. What can you do to help me? Right. So now it's more of a first response as opposed to a second response. So we're first responders now to some degree within the organization, because everything, as you're saying, we're finding, how do we reduce these errors? What kind of evaluative measures can we put in place? And so learning is now viewed as the area to go to for your first response, as opposed to saying, this didn't work and now we're coming to you for some training. Now they're saying, how can you strategically partner to help us grow in this area?
Great, thank you. And again, I put the link for attendance again back in the chat, just in case you missed it the first time. I have a question here from a student that I think is really appropriate. It's from Lindsay Abbott, and she asked, is it harder for you to meet in person, online? What do you think is the easiest? She's personally just started an internship and is having a difficult time because it's virtual. Do you have any advice?
I have to be honest, we are all struggling with these moments where we are constantly on camera, right? I personally like virtual meetings because I can have my coffee on the side over there and my headphones over there, my music over here, right? It gives me the freedom to have a little bit more of my own world around me, which makes me comfortable. But at the same time, it's harder to sit in long meetings virtually. It's hard. And so what I will tell you to do, as this is a trick that I use, I keep a notebook near me and I write down the things that sound most important to me in the meeting. Because you're going to have those moments where you focus and other areas where your mind, wanders. That's human nature. Write down things that are most important to you. I'm not saying you have to doodle, but you might have an opportunity where your mind needs some space to write a few stars on the side. And then if you hear something that is pertinent to your role, write that down. But you need something to help you. Have a snack nearby. If you like sweet versus savory, have something nearby, not for every meeting, of course, something healthy, but have it nearby because you need to feed the brain constantly, right? Some fruit would be good, or a little bit of nuts, or, unless you have a nut allergy, something to help you, because again, you are at home in a pandemic. I say, if you know that a meeting is coming and that it may be stressful, take a walk before. I do that. I take a walk before, or I'll text my teammates, hey guys, I know we have this meeting coming up, and we send a text out to each other to inspire each other, a quick motivational piece or something funny that you can look back on every now and then in the meeting and feel less overwhelmed.
Yeah, that was great advice. I wish group teams and courses would do more of that, sort of like checking in. They're always so task oriented and not enough relational oriented. I think one thing you mentioned about the doodling, there's this book Flow. I think I read it in that where cognitive science is saying that if you actually are kind of doing some things with your hands, doodling, drawing, art, whatever it is, you actually remember more. Mm-hmm. So great advice there as well. This will be the last question, and I think it kind of hits a little bit on the entrepreneurship side, and that's how do you actually approach organizations and say that your course that you've developed, or even to professionals, that the course you've developed is valuable and they should pay you for it?
Oh, I love this. They hit the hard question right here. Okay, so for me, what I do is I will create some buzz. You slowly start to market this. And you're not just approaching one organization, you approach several at one time, or an industry. Have your niche in mind and reach out to them and let them know you're offering a 15-minute webinar. Everybody has 15 minutes to give, right? Everybody. And you wanted to invite some of their key stakeholders to your 15-minute webinar. It's free. So let's say it's for the school system. Reach out to several school systems. You invite all of them to your 15-minute webinar. Someone from that organization will listen. Give the best content you can give in no more than 5 slides, no more than 5. Have some type of great activity towards the end and let them know that this 15 minutes was free of charge. You just wanted to let them know a little bit more about what you do. There are some paid opportunities coming up that they can reach out to you for. Have your prices already in mind or have the types of content that you deliver in mind. So give the first 15 minutes free. And then you let them know where they can find the paid opportunities.
That's great. I just put in the chat for those folks that are here that, that 15 minutes is really helpful. And there's this YouTube channel, CoffeeZilla, that I just give a shout out to, but he kind of like looks at, the ones that aren't creating the most up to like the not the good courses, it's kind of the courses that rope you in. But I like watching that from a persuasive point of view, just to kind of see like what the scammers are doing out there. But they do have a legitimate strategy there. So if you're offering a valuable service that is legit, I think just the persuasive strategies that you can learn by watching that channel can be very helpful. So thank you for your responses. At this time, I'm going to ask SIUC Mitch Brown to say a few final words.
Hello, I'm Mitch Brown, a first-year master's student. On behalf of the attendees and sponsors of this session, Southern Illinois University, Carbondale's Department of Communication Studies, SIU College of Liberal Arts, and Communication at Work, LLC, I would like to thank you for taking the time to prepare remarks for this event and share your wisdom and experience with all of us, especially with our students. I know that I especially appreciate your comments about how COVID has changed what you do on the day-to-day and the focus on resilience and innovation. And then your advice on how to learn with sitting in on class you're interested in, or talking to teachers or reaching out to professionals in your field was great for those wanting to take the initiative. I also like the quote you had, you have 2 choices. You're either seated at the table when decisions are made or you're on the menu was awesome. I know I'll use this information in thinking about how we transition into teaching and working in a post-COVID world. Please accept our virtual handshake and forthcoming thank you card and gift as a token of our gratitude. And thank you again, Shermaine Perry Knights, for taking the time to speak to all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shermaine. For those in attendance who appreciated this session,